When we talk about social media, it just blows me away. The first thing that happens is overwhelmed, right? I mean, all of us have entered the social media world, and there's all kinds of judgments and ideas and things that I have about it. And people get, I don't know, mentally caught up in the social media platform world. And, you're all about techniques and actual science and things that move it forward. I, I think we should start there. Really start it with helping people understand that there is a way to make social media happen. It's not about being overwhelmed. It's about creating a system that works.
Exactly. And everyone's system is going to be a little bit different. But I think that one of the most important things to know is that you don't need to be on social media so much. And I think this is something that so many people have heard time and time again is, well, you're not seeing the success because you're not posting enough. You need to do more. And I want to just shed light on the fact that you can have just as much impact and growth and followers and income posting 3 to 4 times a week as posting daily.
That's contrary to everything I've ever been trained, right? I mean, I everything that's in my bone, everything I've ever been trained in social media has been about, Anthony, you got to, for the podcast or for any of the social media platforms I have, for any of the companies that I own, they're all, you got to be 30 times a week. You got to be out there a lot. You got to,
Oh my God,
more is
30 times a
more.
week.
Yeah. I mean, and that's literally what we follow is every company that we have. All right. And I have 9 of them. We try to go out there, and not all of them are some of the real estate funds or some of the trusts I have. Those don't need to do it. But the companies where we're out there, we're literally trying to get to that 30. And I want to hear more about why and how less is more. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are you creating by doing that? How is that impacting the social media world by going less is more?
Well, and I think that less is more is something that will give everybody a little bit of a sigh of relief. Not all of us were created to just be on our phones, dancing and talking and pointing and being content creating machines. And I don't know about you, but I have a business to run. My business happens to be a social media agency, but I'm not a influencer. I'm not out there trying to get brand deals. I'm out there posting for lead gen and community building because if I can post the type of content that is going to build my biggest fans that are my ideal client and customer, I don't need to have 100,000 followers or hope for that one viral video. I just need to make sure I'm showing up consistently and providing value to my biggest fans so that they're ready to buy at any phase of the customer journey.
And that's really what it is. It's about enough, right? And finding out, I think sometimes we've actually pissed people off by doing too much, right? I mean, when I first started the podcast, we had a mail merge system that would send out emails, and we would send out, we took everybody that was in our database for the company that I still own. We had, I don't know, 150 or 180,000 subcontractors all over the country. And we had all these subcontractors, and we said, well, we'll download our database of that, and we'll take it, we'll import it over to the database for the podcast, and we'll send it because we deal with a lot of construction people. We have a lot of topics we cover are great for construction folks, and we'll send an email inviting them to come to the podcast.
Mhm.
And we did that, every week, and then we realized we didn't have a system for that, because when people would opt out, we didn't do that. And then all of a sudden, we started getting this hate mail. Like, there were people out there who were so mad. They're like, dude, you're spamming me. And we didn't realize it. And then some of our subs, we had the same person in multiple markets in the database. So when we would send it out, all of them, some of them would get 10 emails in a week. And they're like, Jesus, you're spamming me. It wasn't on purpose. Just we didn't have a system for it. And our goal was to try to, get the podcast out to folks, but we just didn't have a system for communicating properly yet. And we overdid it.
Well, Anthony, I think that is it. It's common. You're not alone with that. One, segmenting the emails, but two, just thinking that more is better. And I think that so many of us are trying to be on all the platforms, posting more, but really what I have my clients do is take a giant step back. Think about 1 or 2 platforms to focus in on because there's a lot of different ways to create content. I mean, if we're talking about Instagram, there's Instagram stories, there's Instagram carousel posts, reels, uh, Instagram video, which is formerly IGTV. There's going live on Instagram, there's threads. I mean, that's a lot of different ways of creating content on just one platform. And if this platform is giving you these options, they want you to try to create content a variety of ways.
Mm.
And then everybody consumes content differently. If you think about it, you know, there's all these different ways of creating videos, carousels, because not everyone wants to watch a short form video. Not everyone has the graphic design capabilities to create a carousel post. So you have to keep in mind, one, there's a variety of ways to post. The platform wants you to post a variety of ways, and everyone's going to consume those posts differently.
That's the one that has surprised me the most, is that there's so many things to look at. It's like dieting was. It still is, right? There's still, I'm always looking for the easy, quick fix diet, and
Yeah.
someone to tell me, all right, I just, I don't want to body shame myself anymore, and there's so much things coming at me. I get overwhelmed by all the advice. Is it carbs today? Is it keto today? Is it low carb, high fiber? Right? There's so many different things that come at me. The same thing happens in social media, and looking for a coach or somebody that, if you ask enough people, you'll get whatever answer you're looking for. That's my first suggestion. And I feel like if you're looking for, if you're looking to grow your platform, find a coach that resonates with you and stick to
Yeah.
that person's advice. So whatever it is, if that coach, gives you, and, commit to a time with them, right? How do you engage customers when you're starting to do that? How do you know when you get the right fit as a customer?
That's a great question. And I think that I work with a lot of realtors, consultants with small teams, and it's mostly people that there's a team around you, but you need to be the face of your business. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize, is that the logo, the beautiful branding and all that, it'll only take you so far. People want to do business with people. And if you have somebody that's willing to be the face of your business, it's going to make the rest of your social media a whole lot easier. And you're going to be able to build that know, like, and trust factor a lot better. So one of the biggest things of making sure that if you want to go in with a strategy is, if you've been saying, I've been posting a ton, and I mean, I think it does okay, I don't really know. And if you don't know if your social media is working for you, if you're not seeing leads come in, I'm not saying if you're not seeing followers increase. I'm saying if you're not seeing leads come in, that's how you know that your social media needs to have a strategy or to have an audit done, because that's what your social media is, that awareness that's designed to bring people to do business with you. Followers are great, but at the same time, do you want to have a whole bunch of followers, or would you rather have a bunch of people that are your target audience willing to buy from you?
That's the hardest one, right? You look at these numbers and you're like, well, I don't have 100,000 subscribers, but I figured that if I don't have 100,000 subscriber, but I have 5,000 that are really good subscribers, or
Mhm.
500 that are amazing subscribers, or 150 that are customers, I'd rather be there than the 150,000 that are just, I've gone out there and so that's the noise that seems really confusing. It's how to create the 150, or the number of subscribers that become customers, right?
Yeah.
And that's the struggle that I notice when we're doing this. How do we really get, the actual people to become listeners or customers, whatever it is you're looking for, whatever you're trying to get out there on social media.
Yeah, and I think so. Why have a 4 post strategy? It's called the awareness to action strategy, and it takes people through 4 posts of making them aware of the problem, telling them about how they can quickly solve the problem, how you were able to solve that problem, and how, if you want to learn more, have somebody help you with your problem or listen to a podcast, to take action. If you think about it, Anthony, I don't know about you, but I've never gone to Instagram to listen to a podcast,
That's right.
ever.
Right. Right.
I've never gone to Facebook to listen to a podcast.
No.
So how can you make your listeners, your people, aware that they even have this problem and your podcast has the solution for them unless you take them through this journey. And so you're not asking them to leave the platform until that fourth post. You've made them aware of the problem. You've talked a little bit about how they can solve it, how you were able, why you had this guest on, or why you decided to implement this strategy. And then for now, you're asking them to take action. By the way, I sit down with Katie Brinkley in this week's podcast episode, and we dive into all these different talking points. Don't you? We already know how to solve some of these things. Don't you want to hear the whole thing?
That's right.
Now you can ask them to leave.
Yeah. I feel like those other posts, when I do social media posts for Instagram for the podcast, right, or for Facebook for the podcast, or do it for Twitter, or we're posting right now on 6 different platforms, and we're doing it every day, right? And that's really, we'll take the average podcast and we'll split them up into 5 or 6 different segments, and we'll send those out every day. Now, we just started doing that maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Now, I haven't seen a dramatic change in numbers, right? And that's the hard part with social media. It feels like you're doing a lot of chopping wood and carrying water before the numbers actually kick in, and it sometimes feels desperate. I mean, when you're out there, you're like, man, that's a lot of work for 1 follower or 2 followers or 10
Yeah.
followers a week to be added.
Well, and I think that too, this is where if you are taking people through this journey, you don't need to be doing so much, because you know this post is for awareness. This post is for community building. This is why they can trust me. This is why they can trust my guests, why they want to know more about my guests. If you're posting, especially too, if you're posting the same content on every single platform, what's the incentive to really follow you on other platforms? Because you're not creating anything new. You're not creating anything different. And
Yeah.
so it's just become white noise. You
Well,
have to be willing to do the different ways of posting.
right here, absolutely. Each platform requires a different way of but you're not doing TikTok, and you're not posting on TikTok the way you do on Facebook.
Correct.
Right. They're 2 distinct, or Instagram or Twitter or X, or, let's talk a little bit about the industry and how, well, I guess, as you put together ideas for how do you figure out each individual industry or your platform and your strategy for it, right? You mentioned some stuff about, this one here, I'm doing it for this reason. So let's talk a little bit about the platforms, and a little bit about what are the strategies for each platform.
Yeah. And I think that with each platform, you have to know which platform you want to be on, because that is part of the deal. You have to be social on these platforms. And if, for me, I don't really like TikTok. The reason why is I have 2 young daughters, and when I'm on social media, most of the time it's because there's a Disney movie playing at the same time. And so I'm on social media with the sound off. TikTok's really not any fun without sound. So I'm not on it. I'm not spending time engaging or watching or looking at trends or what's working. It's not worth it for me to be on it. Now, Instagram, I'm on Instagram and I'm on LinkedIn because I like to read my content. I like to see, I love those long form, LinkedIn articles. I love a good old fashioned Instagram carousel post. I'll see stuff from like 3 days ago. They're like, here's Katie Brinkley. We can show her this 3-day-old post because we know she'll spend more time on the platform. So think about which platforms you enjoy being on, because you do need to be on them to engage with your audience. So for me, like I said earlier, I work with a lot of realtors. I'm not a realtor, but I spend a lot of time in the hashtag realtor life. Why? That's where my ideal client is. And I will go in and I'm commenting on their posts. Your time is so valuable. Don't be on these platforms just wasting it scrolling the feed. You can be on for 10 minutes, engage with your ideal clients using a certain hashtag hub, and have more people come to follow you. More people want to be learning from you and be a part of your community, all because you left a thoughtful comment on their social media post. So That was a long way of saying which platform should you be on, but it's going to be different for everyone. So you have to know which one do you want to engage with 10 minutes a day. I mean, like that's I when I'm not watching TV, it's when I do it in the carpool pickup line. So you have to find that 10 minutes that you can be on these platforms so that you can engage with your ideal clients, because if nobody is engaging, like nobody, it's kind of like a podcast. You and I are having this great conversation, Anthony, but nobody's listening can actually respond. And how nice is it with social media if when you have somebody that you can have a two-way conversation with?
Well, I think in social media it makes it easier, right? People are used to how to get there. I still feel like in some realms the podcast world is still growing, which is
Yes.
why I think it's such a fascinating realm. Why I love it so much. We're continuously uh we're growing, and I watch the podcast world just keep exploding.
Mhm.
Every week I'm like, wow, it's amazing how many more people are listening to podcasts than were listening to them last month or even last year. The
Yeah.
podcast world has just been such a great growth. And I think the same thing's happened with social media. Now, as you look at the strategies for each one, right? Let's go back a little bit on strategy. So which ones are you looking at for B2B? What platforms are the B2B platforms that you feel like are, if I'm a B2B business, what's the platforms I should be focusing on?
I love LinkedIn. So prior to 2023, I only was using Instagram and LinkedIn for my business's marketing. 2023, I added in Facebook, but LinkedIn is a great spot to go and talk shop. People are there to talk business, there to talk about the latest industry trends. You can write LinkedIn articles, LinkedIn newsletters. It is a great way to go and network, and people are there expecting to network. Now, LinkedIn currently does have a little bit of a bot problem over in the DMs, but if you just ignore those and kind of hang out in the feed, it is a great place to again have those business conversations. So I absolutely love LinkedIn for B2B. I think it kind of has a little bit of a bad rap, thinking a lot of people think it's still an online resume. It is that, but it's another great place to do some networking.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what's happened with LinkedIn for me, and I
Oh,
get
yeah,
so much.
you're not alone.
I get so much stuff in there. It now makes, and I'm always afraid. Like I'm like, there's no way I can answer all these bots or weed through them, so I end up missing a lot of them. And then my guess is that my judgment is I've got these great messages somewhere in between there. So then I go like, all right, go back through these, take the time, or get one of our crew members to jump on and go through those with great detail. But the number of spam or bot stuff that I get really makes it difficult to
No,
jump, to figure out.
they got to figure something out with that. It's getting out of control. But again, if you just ignore the bots and the DMs, it's a really fun place.
Yeah. So B2B, you're thinking LinkedIn and for most of it.
Yeah, I think that LinkedIn is a great spot for that, sort of networking and community building. I mean, social media has it's it's changed a lot since Tom was our first social media friend, in the MySpace world. That's when I started helping bands with their MySpace pages, was how I got into social media. And I think that one reason why I've always been a really big fan of social media is because if you go in with intention on these specific platforms, magic can happen. It's really incredible the opportunities that can present themselves, the relationships that can be built. I mean, some of my best friends I met on Instagram during COVID, and we've still never actually met in real life, but I consider that some of them my closest friends from Zoom calls and text message conversations. So I mean, really from business to relationships, if you go in with intention, regardless of the platform, and you want to be authentic and not just, I mean, nobody wants to open up Facebook and be sold to. We know we're going to be sold to with their ads, but
It's increased, by the way,
it
dramatically.
has.
Yeah, since Zuckerberg's out there spending all this money on Meta, on all the stuff. My ad spaces have, it's like every other
I know, it's like
feed is
one out of
now.
every three is an ad, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, all right, look, dude, now you're annoying me to no end. And some of the stuff is great. But again, some of it creeps me out too. I was talking with some friends about cold plunging yesterday,
I've
and
been getting a bunch of cold plunge ads
ah,
too.
oh, they all came up. Like now, I'm like, all right, do I want to get a cold play? Am I going to commit to this, trying this
So
thing out? I'm like, all right, I
I
like
get
the
those
idea of it.
ads too, Anthony, and I was like, and then I made the mistake of being like, well, I wonder how much a cold plunge would cost, and now like it's overwhelming with the cold plunge with
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah. By the way,
ads in my
have,
feed. I'm like, I
have
should
you
have never
cold?
clicked it.
Have you done the cold plunge yet?
I did on vacation. I went to this spa, and one of the spa things, they had a cold plunge pool,
Where was
and
that?
it was in
That.
Aspen. So
Oh,
we
there you
I
go.
yeah,
I
it was a wonderful experience, and I was like, "I'm just gonna go ahead and try it." And it's like, "Woof," once was good, but now I'm like
Wow,
seeing
no,
all these ads making it look amazing.
I did the same thing. I was down in I was with a friend of mine in Park City, and he's got a cold plunge, and the thought of doing, like the week before, my daughter had something going on with her foot, and so I made like this ice bucket, and I put her foot in there. She was had some swelling, and I'm like, I'm just gonna try this. I'm going to my buddy Jeff's house next week, and we're gonna cold plunge. I was gonna try out, put my foot in there. I'm like, I had my foot in there for under a minute, and I'm like, I'm gonna put my whole body in this. That seems insane. The thought of it scared the Jesus out of me, and so I get with him, and he's this avid cold plunger. He just believes he does it every day, and he just he's right into it. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna do it. And the first time I did it, I got to tell you, I was frozen. I uh I was overwhelmed. I didn't make it a minute. I made it right at a minute. In a minute, I'm like, I have to get out. And I thought, there's no way I could ever do this again. And then the next
Yeah.
day, next day we went and we hiked, and we went on this great workout day, did yoga, and then we did some breath work. And we brought this expert in who there was three guys, and we kind of had this health weekend, and we brought an expert in who does this breathing exercise, and we bring them in, and we get done with the breathing, and then I jumped in after the breathing, and I made it over 3 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, now I got excited. I'm like, all right, now I want to go do it again and see how far I can take this whole practice. And now, do I want to go buy one for a few grand? I'm not quite there yet, but we'll see what happens in that world. So I know I've diverted into cold plunging, but that seemed to have just popped up
And now it'll
lately.
be interesting to see if people listening to this and they have like the little Alexas or anything on their, on their desk start hearing the cold plunge, cold plunge, cold plunge if their ads start changing too. But I mean, like, so this is where again, like the amount of ads that were being shown, how can you make sure that you stand out in a sea of noise? I mean, I think the latest statistic I saw was like 95 million photos and videos are uploaded every day on Instagram. So, I mean, if I'm here saying that, well, you should be posting less, I understand why. Well, wait a second, how am I going to stand out if I'm not posting enough? And it's this strategy of connection and bringing people aware, making people aware of your comment or content, and then giving them some insightful information, a tip or tutorial, and then what is it that makes you different? Why should I trust you? Why should I listen to your podcast? Why should I do business with you? There's a lot of people out there that do what you do. Why you? And then finally asking them to leave social media, to go one step further with you, to sign up for your newsletter, to do business, to listen to your podcast, whatever. And if you take people, if you want to still post daily, you can still do this strategy on the daily scope instead of, again, just sharing the one type of content over and over. Shake it up, because again, everyone consumes it differently.
Let's talk a little about shaking up. So when you're so my 9-year-old, she's an actress, she's a dancer, and we've got someone who runs her Instagram platform,
Yeah.
and this person does a great job of every day mixing it up. So one day it's about dance, one day it's about her soccer, one day it's a little bit of a lot of bit of dance, so dance and acting, and so that the acting and the studios and the people that are looking for her to be in those realms can see her, and the agencies see her. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it's also about building her character and getting to know her a little bit, right? And it was amazing to me. I'm like, well, first of all, we got a child that's got an Instagram account with that many people following. That's a
Yeah.
little crazy, but it's fun to watch how their strategies go for that. So let's talk about what are things. How are you mixing it up? What's the strategy for is it, 100% business, or how much fun are you having in there? What are you doing to make it a little bit more well-rounded rather than, just same rifle shot at everybody right in the forehead every time?
Totally. And I think that one of the first things you should do is look at your insights. You need to know who it is that you're talking to. So if it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever the platform is, look at your insights. And if you haven't done that ever, well, do it now. And if it's been a while, take a look at it. In fact, I recommend taking a look at your insights at least quarterly because they can change. I mean, on Instagram, 82% of my audience is female, ages 35 to 54. I know exactly who I'm talking to with every single post. You'll see me in my Instagram stories sharing pictures of me and my family, showing life like as a mompreneur. On LinkedIn, I don't really do that often because 60% of my audience there are male founders.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
know who you're talking to on these platforms. I think that is one of the first things that I would recommend doing. And then with this different type of posts, just to make it simple, I'm only going to talk about one platform with this awareness to action strategy. So if it's Instagram that you are deciding this is my platform, I enjoy spending time on, I'm going to create content for it. I'm going to go all in with what Katie's saying and just give it a shot for like 4 or 5 weeks. So let's say it's Instagram. Your awareness post, your first post after looking at your data and your insights, posting it on the day before your very first, your best day, is this awareness post. And think of this post as your net. So this is you're throwing your net off of the boat into the water and you're trying to get as many fish as possible. Actually, you know what? We're in Maine. We're going to try and get as many lobsters as possible.
Okay.
With our little cages. Well, we might get some boots or maybe a fish or a crab might crawl in there. It's fine. I mean, we got mostly lobster. Awesome. But there's some random stuff in there. We just want to get as many people as possible. So on Instagram, this would be a reel. So let's say for your reel, it would be me using a trending audio and say like, the 3 tools I use every week to save 5 hours a week with my social media content creation. And I point to Loomly, Capsho, and Flick. And that's it. I just said 3 tools that save me 5 hours a week. These are them. And then I have a caption about those tools or whatever. That's my awareness post. I'm trying to reach as many people as possible. And hopefully the majority of them are my target audience. The next post is going to be that tip or tutorial. So it's most like on Instagram, it would be a carousel post. And I could say how Loomly saves me 2 hours every week with my social media.
Yeah.
And then I swipe through the carousel saying like, it allows me to do this and this and this, and I can schedule and I can look at hashtags and I have a hashtag collection saver, anything. And I've educated and taken people that I got from that awareness post and I've taken them and I've given them some insights into one of those tools that I use that saves me time. I've educated them just one step further.
Well, and I think that's the part that having a coach to guide there. And look, audience, when you get to this point, we're all going through it. Look, and I think that our group does an amazing job of social media, and still, I feel like we're infants in the whole realm of it. Right? As I start to look at, what we do here with the podcast and our team, and having a great coach like Katie to guide us through that, is a gift. The other judgment I have is that I can't see my own character defects of the way that we perform this as an issue, right? Sometimes we have this justifying behavior as a group that says, oh, no, we got to do it this way. We start to believe our own banter, right? And we can't see ourselves. If we could, we would have changed it. And the truth is, what got me to where I am right now won't get me to where I want to go. So I need to bring in some coaches, some outside support, someone that can help guide and see those places where I'm messing up. Those places where I know you could call it messing up, or I could adjust my strategy. Look, I don't want to be so bad at saying we're messing up because it is a big idea and there's constant room for an opportunity to try something else on that I might not be able to see if I'm sitting in self-justifying behavior, or even just not willing to go learn, right? Just go out and go over and look and go, all right, how can bring a coach like Katie on dramatically change what I'm doing? And is it worth the time and effort to do that? And my judgment's always yes. If you look at it from your social media platform, your sales and marketing platform, to your your finances, you don't sit and do your own finances, right? If you're a great entrepreneur, bring in the right accounting folk, the right CPA. Today I've got a CPA meeting with a group, and I've run that company for 26 years, and we're bringing in a CPA firm that meets with us today to go through strategy, to look at it, go right, and just maybe how could you do it better. Now, that's the gift of having a great relationship or coach like Katie.
Well, thanks, Anthony. I think that, and I wouldn't be where I am with my business without hiring coaches. I remember when I hired my first coach, everything for my business changed. So it's true. There's always somebody out there that can see something through a different lens that you might not be willing to, that you wouldn't have even realized or thought about trying.
I want to make sure that we go back through your 4 steps, right? I think one of the things that you do dramatic, great. Let's talk about. Let's kind of take it to the close with your 4 steps. And audience, if you really like these steps, I want you to really get with Katie and her team, and look at an opportunity for whatever works for you and your group, wherever you're at. But Katie, let's go through your 4 steps and talk about
Yes.
that a little bit more.
Awesome. Yeah. So we talked about the awareness, we talked about the tipper tutorial, and then the third post is that community building post. Why should we trust you? So just going off of that example that I was saying earlier, I could say, have maybe a picture on Instagram, because that's what we're talking about, of me and my daughters, and then say how incorporating Loomly allowed me to be my daughter's softball coach. And I tell the story of what I was working until 4 p.m. every day. And by the time I got done at work, I wanted to, just go home and relax and unwind. But once I found Loomly, I was able to have 2 hours of my day back every single day. And with that 2 hours, instead of working, I now had the time to be my daughter's softball coach and be a more present parent, because I know in just a couple of years, she's just not going to think mom's cool anymore and is not going to want to have me as her coach. So I can share my story about how this one tool gave me my time back. And isn't this something that you would like to? So that's my community building post.
So community build. Let's go back through. First one,
Awareness.
Second one,
Tipper tutorial.
Third one,
community building.
And fourth one,
action. We're asking people to leave the platform. You can finally do it. And in this example, I can say, I actually have a podcast episode all about how Loomly got started, and all these other different things. I talk with their CEO about why they got started and all the different tools and ways that they're saving people over 10 hours a week with their social media content. Don't you want to listen? Click the link here, listen on your favorite podcast player, whatever. But now I'm actually saying, like, remember how we were talking about Loomly and how it saves so much time all week? Now you can hear even more about it. There's other things it does other than just these 2 things I talked about.
Well, Katie Brinkley, I got to tell you, I love talking to you. Audience, if you love talking to her as much as I love talking to her, she's an amazing coach. She does a great job with helping you and inspiring you to create a social media platform that's well developed and has depth and meaning and value. If you're looking for a coach like that, please find Katie. Katie, where can they find you?
KatieBrinkley.com, or you can listen to my podcast, Rocky Mountain Marketing.
Rocky Mountain Marketing and the pod and the website. Make sure you look that up. And audience, as always, please comment down below if you got you want to talk about cold plunging or social media or whatever it is you want to put out there for Katie and I. Put it down in the comments. We make sure we answer all of the comments out there. And as always, we're grateful for you listening. Thanks for being here today.